Welcome to the Perfectly Flawed podcast. Thank you so much for joining me today. For those that don't know you, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, so my name's Molly, also known as Molly Ava on Instagram, which I hate saying when people are like, and your Instagram name. I am an online coach, a fitness enthusiast, and a deep lover of cheese and wine. I think that's, if I had to summarize myself, that's kind of where I'd put myself at the start.
I love that. The first question I'm going to start with is how did you get into online coaching and then starting the Instagram page that you now have?
So this is a deep dive we're going into here. Um, so I started my Instagram page. Funnily enough, I had an old Instagram, and somehow got locked out of it. So that's why I ended up making the one I currently have, my fitness page. I started my Instagram because, like most people, I went to university. I lived off ready meals for 2.5 years. I had no understanding of any form of health, and I just sort of fell off the wagon. And I was drinking Alco Pops, like, I don't know if you guys have them. We call them like VKs. They're basically just like sugary vodka. It's awful. And I literally, like, that's what you go and drink on a night out. And they're like £1 each. And you'd go and you'd be like, go to the bar and you'd be like, I have 6 VKs, please. And you'd come back with like 6 sugar drinks. So my university is consisted of a lot of that. And I sort of lost my way, I think, a bit with actually looking after myself, and that then kind of had a knock-on effect to my mental health. And by halfway through my second year of university, I was like, enough's enough. Like, if something doesn't change now, I worry that I'll get to the end of my third year and be in a situation where I don't feel ready to go off into the world and try and find a job, or I don't feel comfortable, or confident in myself, which I think can really kind of hinder you moving into the professional world. So I decided, if I was going to do the fitness thing, someone had to keep me accountable because I wasn't physically able to do that myself. So it was time to make an Instagram page. And honestly, I've been doing that ever since, and I love it. And it was such a nice way to put myself out there in a way that both pushed me out my comfort zone, but also found a community that supported me with what I was doing. And then from that, I finished university. We all got the dreaded coronavirus, and there was no jobs. So all the jobs that I was going for, people who had been made redundant, who had like 7 years worth of experience, were also going for. So, I mean, obviously no one's going to pick me, a university graduate with a ton of debt and minimal experience, versus someone who's been in the industry for 10 years. And I was like, oh shit, like, what am I going to do then? And then I remember talking to my mum, being like, I really want to start online coaching. But I'm really nervous because I was applying for jobs, I was getting interviews, kept getting rejected. I was like, I just don't know if I can do this, because it's a lot of pressure to take on yourself. And I remember her saying to me, like, if you don't try it now, you never will, because you'll end up in a job, you'll end up, maybe not having time for a passion project. Because I'm the kind of person, I'm 100% in if I'm in. So if I end up doing something else, like, that takes over my life. Um, like, coaching has taken over my life, which is fine by me because I love it. So yeah, it was kind of a case of, if not now, then when. So I started working part-time, went down to part-time in the shoe shop I was working in, and literally within 3 or 4 weeks, probably, yeah, about the space of a month, I quit my job there and I was a full-time online coach.
That's crazy how quickly that turned around. Side note,
Yeah.
is your university degree related to online coaching?
I've got a geography degree. I got a ton of debt for something that I probably will never use, but hey, that's on personal growth.
I love that. There's so many times where you hear about people that do degrees and it's like, oh, it's like your job related. You're like, no, not in the
No,
slightest.
no, honestly, hilarious. People are always like, oh, so you have a degree in like sports nutrition? I'm like, no, just bit politics, bit of travel, bit of tourism. They're like, oh, how does that apply to what you do? It doesn't.
I love that. So what was it like initially? Like, as you said, it was used, sort of to keep you accountable. How did
Mm.
it like go from being something so simple for yourself to what it is now?
Oh, that's a good and large question. I feel like during lockdown, like our first lockdown in the UK, which was what, like 4 months long or something, I started posting and sharing a bit more like workout side of things. And I think everyone during that time was desperate for home workouts, or desperate for, you know, pushing themselves to try something new. Everyone started a skill, whether it was knitting or star jumps in lockdown. I think everyone was just desperate for something. And I was like, okay, I'm going to start sharing some workouts and things like that. But at that point, I was still very unhappy in myself. And I remember very much picking that Instagram apart. And every time I posted something, having so much doubt in myself. And actually, as my account began to grow at that time, because I did gain a lot of followers, people were interested in fitness and stuff, I began to doubt myself a lot. I was like, I don't really know if I want to be doing this. You know, and this was just before I think I started offering online coaching. And then once we kind of came out of that, I found a bit more confidence with life going back to normal. I wanted to share a bit more about how I felt the pressures of Instagram and social media made me feel. So I started, you know, doing more focus on posed and relaxed photos, or, you know, showing sides of my body that previously I would have edited out, because I think, you know, that shows so many people that they should have confidence in what they look like in any space, whether it's in the gym, whether it's on a night out, whether your tummy is rolling over the top of your gym waistband, you know, whether your arms look a little bit flappy in a video. Like, it doesn't matter, because we all look like that, because we are just normal people, and that's fine. But I think sometimes the pressures of what you see online really takes that away from you. So my account very much evolved from just me kind of being nervous and sharing the highlights of my life, I suppose, to, you know, me pushing myself out of my own comfort zone, more for me than for anyone else, to grow that, and to help other people understand that everybody's body is normal, and actually what people show on Instagram is probably just what they look like 1% of the time, and the other 99% of the time they just look like a normal human being. You know, they're not sticking their bum out or waking up with their abs first thing in the morning. Like, it's not realistic. It's just the highlight reel that people choose to show online.
Yeah, and there's so many great things that I want to unpack in that. But the first thing I want to start with is, you know, how, like, what, when you say there was so much doubt, do you think that doubt sort of grew the more followers you got?
Yes, initially, and now no. Like, I think I was just so unconfident in my own body. I was like, why do people care? Like, why would people want to follow me? And then for every 100 positive comments I'd get one negative comment from usually some person with no face on Instagram, you know, some ridiculous name. Clearly, it's not just an online troll who'd say something nasty about me. And that would stick with me for weeks on end, you know, and none of those positive comments would matter, because that was all I could cling on to. So I think that was more reflective of my mental state at the time, you know, and my own relationship with myself and my body, rather than Instagram itself. But definitely, like, as I've learned to push my confidence and just kind of accept myself the way that I am, that doubt has absolutely lessened. And, you know, I get negative comments all the time. Like, that's just what comes with having a social media platform, unfortunately. But I just wake up in the morning, I go through my comments, I delete the ones I don't like, and I get on with my day. And that's that. It's not something that I ever reflect back on. But that is, yeah, very much just to do with me and my own confidence in myself more than anything.
Yeah, and I think that sort of flows on to my next question, in the sense that what was that initial step like, where it's like posting pictures of where, like, posed versus relaxed? Because whilst those sort of images have sort of come to light a bit more on Instagram, it definitely wasn't there in the beginning. And so doing something that's sort of like, in quotations, outside the norm, or something that's not really seen, as you say, it is very much a highlight reel, and then posting things that are not so much a highlight and are sort of seen as being ashamed of, or, you know, negative or whatever. What was that like to post something like that for the first time?
I remember actually getting like sent a set that I had to post in, like a gym wear set, and I was like, oh, I'd seen like a few people trying to do like some more body positivity side of things, and I really liked that. And funnily enough, the first one I posted, I literally sat there and posted it on my Instagram and just watched it and went, oh my god, this is horrible. I look horrible. I can't believe I shared this. Like, this is disgusting. Like, no one wants to see this. I just look completely normal. But and now that baffles me. But I actually remember, you know, the comments rolling in, or people messaging me, or people sharing it, and that installed so much confidence in me, you know, that other people feel the same way that I do, that it almost kind of made that community sense. Like, it almost reinforced the positive kind of connotations and thoughts that come with it, rather than the negative, which I think, if you're not in the best headspace, is so easy to only kind of narrow down and be like, these are all the things I don't like, rather than thinking this could actually help people, and, you know, this might make someone smile, or this might make someone look at themselves differently the next time they get dressed, or this might make someone more confident the next time they go outside. And I think the more that I did it, the more confident I became with it. But yeah, the first time was quite scary, because you do feel quite vulnerable, I think, because you feel like you're only supposed to show the good, not the sweaty or the lumpy or the spotty, but you know, that's important to share. And I think as time's gone on, like you said, it's become more and more normalized, and I'm grateful for that, because I do feel like, you know, I want to open up my Instagram, and that's what I want to see.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's amazing what you do. Like I personally don't have the confidence to do that. I wish I did. It's just not there yet for me. But on those days, because obviously you still have days where it's gonna be like, you know what, today I look in the mirror and I feel like shit. Like I'm not
Yeah,
feeling myself today. They still happen regardless of, all the good days. There are still those bad days. What do you do on those bad days that make that a little bit better or a little bit more bearable?
I am part of the baggy t-shirt and trackies club, 100%. On days where it's just like, oh, you know, yeah, you're absolutely right. You're never 100% going to look in the mirror every day and be like, I am hot shit. Like, I am amazing. I mean, maybe someone out there is. Maybe someone has got that level of confidence where every morning they're like, Jesus, I look insane. But personally, I'm not there yet. But yeah, it's very much a baggy t-shirt, some trackies. I think, okay, do I want to order myself something nice for lunch? You know, like where can I find that kindness for myself? But I do think there's a very fine line, especially for me, of being too lenient with myself, when more often than not, like I do have the power to push on. I do have the power to go and move my body or get some fresh air or be kind to myself. But sometimes, you know, it's about finding the balance between the two. It's like a compromise of, okay, you're still going to go to the gym today, or you're still going to go and do a yoga class, or you're going to go for a swim or whatever it is. But maybe you're going to go and do it in your comfiest trackies, and maybe afterwards you're going to go and buy yourself a microwave mac and cheese meal and a packet and a chocolate bar, and just like get on with the rest of your day. So it's a real balance, I think, between the two for me. But definitely we all have those days where it's very easy to pick yourself apart. But I'm like, cover the mirrors, put on my comfiest clothes, you know, take some time writing down how I feel, maybe journaling, etc. And then, you know, remembering that every day is a fresh day, and just because you've had a bad day, it doesn't mean it needs to be a bad week.
Yeah, I think that's really good advice. How do you deal with motivation then, even if it's, good day, bad day? What's motivation look like for you?
I don't like, it's gonna sound a little bit preachy, but like I don't believe motivation exists. I hate saying that. Look, motivation doesn't exist. I feel like it's something that people have sort of created for themselves, kind of almost as an excuse sometimes. Like, oh, I'm not motivated, so I don't want to do this. Or like, oh, you know, I'm not motivated today, so I didn't. Sorry, that's really loud and annoying. I'm not motivated today, so I didn't manage to do this. Or like, I just feel like that's such an easy excuse. I used to do that all the time. Oh, I'm not motivated, so I didn't bother. But I am very rarely motivated. I am very busy. You know, my weekdays are crazy. I'm running my own business. I'm also trying to, you know, do Instagram. I also get to talk to lovely people like you know, so I get to fit all sorts of different fun things in, which I love. I am stupidly busy. And some mornings I wake up and all I want to do is go back to bed. All I want to do is just be like, I am absolutely sick of this shit. Like, you know, I don't want to go to the gym. I don't want to go for a walk. I don't want to get up at 5:30, 6 in the morning and be like, woo, let's go talk about my story, like whatever. Like that's not true. But I am driven, and I am disciplined, and I have my routine more than anything. And I'm very much aware that I can't expect to give 50% to something and get 100% back, whether that is in my personal life or my professional life. You have to be prepared to give everything you've got. Otherwise, you can't expect to see any change. And I think sometimes that can be really hard to accept or to deal with. And it certainly was for me at the start, because I'd be expecting to give 10% and get 100%. I'd expect to have one protein shake and wake up with a six pack, but it's just sadly not the way that life works. So yeah, I think very much motivation is something that people have created, sometimes to use it as an excuse, sometimes just sort of this construct that like can be, I guess, good in a way. Like I'm so motivated, it can be used in a positive way. But more often than not, it's just about small steps to create habits that then just become part of your daily life.
Yeah, I think that's really good advice. And what you said actually reminded me of a meme where it's like you check yourself out in the mirror like after each rep to see if your bum's grown.
That is so funny you said that. I literally posted a reel like that the other day that was like me checking my glute every day. Every set, I'm like, still not there yet. We're still trying.
There's actually something else that you posted on Instagram, and it was you were trying on a pair of jeans and they just didn't fit anymore. And it wasn't necessarily because of in a negative way, it's just, well, I'm just not that size. How do you deal with that mentally? Because I know for myself and plenty other people in my life that I've spoken to and had conversations with, changing size is mentally something that people really struggle with.
Yeah, I think it's so hard. And I think what makes it worse is every single shop you go into, their size is a different size. Like I could be, you know, a UK 8 in one shop and then a UK 12 to 14 in another. Their consistency is pointless. So, you know, and having spoken to people who work in the clothing industry, like there's not really a set standard. Like they have a lot of control over what their sizes look like. So it's very easy for us to compare size to size, shop to shop, but actually there is very limited comparison there because it's just kind of not true. For me, I guess, particularly with growing and pushing my strength, you know, if I'm looking to grow my legs or grow my glutes, like I can't expect to be the same size year on year. You know, my jeans, I can't get them past my lower thighs anymore from last year. And, you know, sometimes that's frustrating, but to me, that's a sign of success because I wanted to grow, I wanted to get stronger, and I have to accept that change comes with that. You know, the same way that I can't wear the small little tight arm t-shirts anymore because they dig into my biceps. Like that wasn't really intentional, but it all kind of comes together. It is what it is. And I think we spend enough time in our lives, particularly when we're younger, basing our value on a number that society tells us is either good or bad, when actually it's just a load of bollocks. You know, growth is part of life. I can't look at my 16-year-old or 17-year-old body and still expect to fit in the clothes that she fitted into then. You know, it comes as a part of any sort of growing up, I suppose. And yes, it's really hard to challenge and deal with, but also your body is incredible and it does so much for you. And to demonize yourself or just to reduce yourself into a number, you know, you're worth so much more than that.
Yeah, absolutely. And even there's a shop in Australia where I buy clothes from all the time. And I have so many different sizes from that one shop. Like it's not even shop to shop. It can even be in the one store. Like I am
Mm-hmm.
not the same size. So trying to buy stuff online is so hard.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's literally impossible. Online shopping is crazy, especially with like, you know, it's like apps and platforms where they sell all sorts of different brands like in one place. And it's just like you can't order two size whatevers because they're two different brands. They're probably completely different. I end up ordering three sizes and having to send half of it back.
Yeah.
Yeah, annoying.
It's so frustrating. The next question I have for you is how do you define success? You know, you've sort of spoken about a little bit briefly, and, you know, if it's growing your legs or your glutes and that sort of thing. How do you define success and do you think you've achieved it?
Honestly, for me, success is having a roof over my head, being able to do a food shop every week, you know, being able to cook good food for myself, being able to look after my body. So, absolutely, I'm successful. You know, I found a way to balance and take care of myself, both physically and mentally. And to me, like, that's all that really is. Like, I'm lucky enough to live with an amazing partner who loves me unconditionally for who I am. And I feel the same back. And, you know, to have that support system, both from him and from my family and friends, and to have, you know, the luxury of running water, a roof over my head, yeah, like food in the fridge, heating in the winter. I think to me that really is like that's all I need. So that's success to me.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. And I think, you know, from doing this podcast, I always get a different answer. So I love asking it. And the thing that I've sort of really learned from it is that it's not an end point, it's not an end destination. It's something that like the goalposts continue to move.
Definitely. No, I completely agree. And I think, you know, what people define as success definitely changes as they get older, you know, especially when people start to look to have families and stuff like that, and success becomes like a whole completely different thing. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, it's so interesting how it evolves. How do you handle like expectations? You know, there's this, I guess, perceived expectation that, you know, being an online creator like yourself, where you should be posting every day and you should be doing this and posting certain things and how often you should be posting. How do you deal with that?
I used to really struggle with that. I have very high expectations of myself. And that very much stems from going to like an all girls grammar school. I don't know if you have grammar schools, but it's like you take a special exam to get in. And then you are expected that so much is expected of you. You're expected to get the highest grades, go to the best universities. And so from that, I have always had huge pressure on myself and intense fear of failure. And so I do find it really hard sometimes. And I used to find it very easy that if I didn't feel passionate about posting or being online, etc., I just shut down and I just wouldn't do it. Um, and sometimes I still do that. Sometimes, you know, but it's more like I'm aware of the fact that I need a break rather than I'm just like, oh, I just all the shutters go down and it's just too much and I can't focus. So I just I guess I do what's manageable. Like I used to try and post every single day. Like I used to feel I need to post this and this every single day. And it's like now I just fit in what's manageable in my week. If I haven't got content, I haven't got content, and that's okay. You know, more than anything, my sole aim is to be helping people and educating people. And I get to do that every day through my job. So Instagram is very much like a, oh, I can't think of another word for it because I hate this phrase, but like a side hustle. So like whilst I do love doing it, like I don't feel like that's my like sole purpose in my aims, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I think I'm coming from a similar position in the sense with this podcast, in the sense that, similar values, like it's about helping people and starting a conversation. And, I sort of put this pressure on myself, like, oh, I want the podcast to be successful, and, I should be posting episodes weekly, and I should be doing this and I should be doing that. But, this podcast, one of the core values is about mental health and balance and all these sort of things. I'm like, okay, why am I doing this? What messages do I want to get across? And sometimes that means, well, if I don't have something, then it's okay if I don't post.
Yeah, it's so true, and you have to remember, like, you're going off other people's schedules as well, so you're interviewing like Olympians and things like that. That's crazy. I was like, I feel so unimportant. I was like reading into your podcast this week, and I was like, oh goodness me, I was like, I have to think of something very important to say. But you're working on other people's schedules, like that's intense as well to try and manage that. So give yourself some grace there, because what you're doing is incredible.
Yeah, thank you. I guess the next thing that I want to ask is failure. You say you have really high expectations on yourself. How do you handle failure? Or do you even think that there is such thing as failure?
So I'd love to say that I don't think there's such thing as failure, but I do, and that is on me. Like that's on my perception of how I view things. When I consider myself failing, am I failing? No, not really, but that's just due to the expectations that I put on myself. However, I do believe that failure is normally just like a few steps away from success. Like everything in business and life is usually about trial and error. Whether it is your personal growth, whether it is something that you're doing within business, it really is a bit of trial and error. So I do feel like failure does come hand in hand with success. So I always try to remind myself that, if something has failed, then you can adapt, you learn from it, and then you can try again. And, it might take one attempt, it might take 10 attempts, but at some point you will be successful with it.
Yeah, definitely. And something that I've noticed from scrolling through Instagram and even just talking to you briefly now, you come across as quite a confident person. Have you always been that way? And how has that sort of relationship with confidence changed and evolved?
So I used to be, I think I've always had some confidence, whether it was real confidence or like a mask that I put on, varied. I think very much I used to be an introverted extrovert, and I drew all of my energy and my confidence from those around me. Like everyone around me needed to be bubbly and exciting and crazy, and I could really feed off of that, and that would make me feel confident because they felt confident. But when I was on my own and when I didn't have anyone else to feed off of, like I was very quiet. I used to spend a lot of time at uni just like in my room on my own, or like traveling home because I was homesick. Like I really struggled to find that balance, and I think a lot of that was related to not feeling confident, whether that be in my body, whether that be in the course that I was doing, whether that be in my job. At the time I found that really hard. I've definitely not always been confident, although I've always been very good at playing the confident role. And I used to have a lot of social anxiety and meeting new people. Like I'd sit in my room sobbing for hours beforehand, like knowing I had to go to something if I didn't know anyone, or like feeling sick, or like I'd be walking there like physically shaking. And the second I get in there, I play this part for like an hour and I'm absolutely fine. And then I'd go home and sleep for like 12 hours because I'd be so tired. But now I feel like I can create my own energy, and that's taken a lot of time, and a lot of time learning to spend time by myself. I used to hate my own company. I used to find it so difficult because I was so used to feeding off of everyone around me for my energy. When I was on my own, I just was like, I don't know what to do. Like, I'm so boring. Like, what am I supposed to do on my own? It's so weird. Like I just watch TV all the time, or like have to have something going on all the time. But now I like my own peace. I like my own quiet. Like I like going for walks by myself without my music, or like without a podcast or something. And I think that has really helped me grow to understand and enjoy my own energy. And that's created some confidence, I think, for me and myself as well.
Yeah, that's awesome. And if your younger self could see where you are now, how do you think younger Molly would react?
Oof. I think I think 16-year-old Molly would be shocked because she expected to have a thigh gap by the time she was 23. I'm absolutely convinced. Absolutely convinced. Sadly, I'm gonna have to tell her, but her genetics don't work like that. I think, yeah, if I was that young, I'd be just beyond shocked because I never saw myself as becoming, I guess, strong. Like, I never saw myself as lifting crazy weights in the gym and being that person who's accidentally like letting out a yelp from the other side of the gym, or, you know, like pushing myself in physical ways that I never imagined. Like, I was obsessed with being small. Like, that's all I wanted for myself. I just wanted to be kind of invisible and skinny. And that's not how I feel now. Like, I'm in the midst of bulking. Like, I'm eating more food than I ever physically have in my life. I wake up every day with a big round full tummy and I love it. That's great. And I think if 18-year-olds saw me, she'd be amazed that I had recovered from such a dark place with my mental health. I really felt so stuck for such a long time, and I never knew how I was going to get away from that. And I think she'd be so proud of the person that I feel like I've grown into.
Yeah, and absolutely should be.
Thank you.
Did you ever go through a stage where going into the gym as a female, and this is can be stereotypical, but I know for myself and other girls have sort of brought this up, walking into a gym, mostly males, generally speaking, and just looking around going, I have no idea what that piece of equipment does, or I have no idea how much weight I should be doing, or, oh, that looks like an interesting exercise. Can I do that?
Yes. Oh my God. So my university gym, this is a medium horror story actually. My university gym was like, had 3 floors. It had a cardio floor, it had like a kind of a weights floor, and it had a conditioning room at the top, which was like where the rugby boys trained. And the first time I ever went there, I wasn't really aware of that. I thought the top floor was like the gym part. And they were like in the midst of doing a conditioning session. I wasn't supposed to go in there, and I strolled right in, opened the door. There was like all these sweaty rugby lads like looking at me, and I honestly, at that point, I left. I was like, I'm never going back to the gym. I was like, I'm so embarrassed. I was like, didn't know how to do anything. I remember being absolutely baffled. Every time I did lunges, I consistently used to fall over because I had no sense of balance. I was just like, what am I doing here? Like, I'm so out of place. And definitely, like when you're in uni as well, you're like, all the sweaty boys are there, like people are all, like all the testosterone all shouting at each other, like, why you went out last night, blah blah. I'm literally there like in a corner somewhere with like a 2 kilogram dumbbell, like, oh, I just don't want to be here. But I pushed myself to keep going. I used to buy like gym guides and things like that to like try and give me some semblance of hope of what I was supposed to be doing. And I used to drag my lovely friend, bless her, Amber, to the gym all the time. I'd be like, right, bring your gym gear, we're going to gym today. She'd be like, oh, okay, fine. And we just sort of giggle and roll around on the mats. And I think having someone else there kind of grew my confidence in the gym as well, because it is terrifying. Like, I think, when my clients come and they're new to the gym and they literally are texting me from the gym, like, what is this place? I'm like, I know. It takes time. You're like, what is going on here? Or like, you see people doing the craziest things. You're like, how? Like, this is mad. But it just takes time. It really does. And it takes, like I said earlier, trial and error. Like, it takes failure, it takes embarrassment. And that is all part of growing in yourself.
Firstly, that gym at that university, 3 levels, unheard of.
Yeah, I know, mad. Very overpriced as well for a university gym. I was like, I have got £3 spare a month. What do you mean? You need to pay £25?
Oh my goodness, that's crazy. The next question I was going to ask you actually is, do you have an embarrassing gym story? I'm sure there's so many, but like if you could pick one to share.
So, I mean, this is so hard. Okay, this one is about, this one's so gross, I hated it. I once was like, okay, I was gonna go get some dumbbells from one side of the like gym floor and go to the other side. And I can't believe I'm sharing this. This is so gross. I had a really bad cold. And I also have like really weak ankles. So that's kind of the backstory of this. So basically, I was walking to the other side of the gym. It's probably like 10 meters. So I picked up these dumbbells, and halfway through, I'm passing someone. I sneeze. I sneezed on this person, this poor
Oh
girl,
no.
like flat on her chest. This is so revolting. And then in the shock, I rolled my ankle and I smacked her in the knee with a dumbbell. And I had sneezed on her and knocked her over. And I was just stood there with these dumbbells. Look at this poor girl who I just literally knocked down. I probably like decapitated her, like literally from the knee up. And I literally was so embarrassed. And I just looked at her. She was on the floor and she just rolled over and looked at me, like from the ground, with her water bottle that was slowly rolling away towards like another machine. And I was just like, I'm so sorry. And she was like, oh, it's fine. And now every time I see her in the gym, she looks at me and she like talks to the person she's there with, and I know she's like, that's the girl that sneezed on me and broke my kneecap. It was awful. It was so awful. I didn't know what else to say. I just said, oh, sorry, and like walked off. And in reflection, I should have helped her up or something, but I just wanted to die. I felt so sick with stress.
I think the worst part of that story is you still see her at the gym.
Oh yeah, seen her a couple of times. I don't go at the same time anymore. Maybe that's part of the reason why. She's like an afternoon gym goer. I'm like a morning gym goer. I've only seen her a couple of times since, but every time I genuinely want to leave.
So if that had happened to me, I would have moved gyms. I'm like, I'm done. I can't go back.
Yeah, well, it was tempting. Don't get me wrong, it's so tempting, but I'm so used to that gym and I'm so comfortable there. I'm not sure I can give that up.
Oh, that's so funny. Well, there's three questions I like to finish with, and the first one is, what is something that you're most proud of about yourself?
Definitely, I think my ability to pick myself up post uni and get on with life, even though life was so hard, like coming out of university and having basically no direction, having finished my degree at home, being rejected from job interview after job interview. I think there must have been like 10 or 12. I was like, oh, I got to an interview stage, and then I get an email the next day, you're not quite what we're looking for. Right, okay. And feeling really hopeless. And that for me was like a real pivotal point of, I'm about to spiral into a bad place of mental health if I don't do something to get myself out of it. And by some miracle, I managed to sit myself down, build a business, and I'm still here 2 years later doing things that I could only have ever dreamed of. And for me, that's just like a huge achievement.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, hats off to you. I mean, I'm in a similar position to what you just described, where you finish uni and you're like, oh yes, interview, and you like another interview, and then it's like, oh, sorry, we're looking for someone more experienced. I'm like, I just need someone just to take that leap. Someone
Yeah.
just needs to just take that first step, and then you'll
Mm.
be fine. But people are like, oh, you need experience. It's like, well, I need a job. Hire me so I
Yeah.
can get
How do
experience.
you think you're going to get experience then? Like, come on. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's frustrating. And it does take time. You just got to persevere. And, at some point, everything will fall into place. And it's always about, I think, for me, knowing that whatever happens is the right thing, just trusting in that.
Yeah, absolutely. What is your favorite quote and or the best piece of advice that you've been given?
So this is like a quote, but I also think it's great advice. Is every morning you have two choices: continue to sleep with your dreams or wake up and chase them. And I just think, every morning I wake up, I choose to be grateful for where I am. I choose to accept that it's a fresh and new day. And I choose to challenge myself to have a better day that was better than yesterday every single morning.
Yeah, I love that. That's so good. The last question is, do you have any tips or advice for anyone that's listening?
I honestly think, be brave. I think it's, we put so much pressure on ourselves and we try to kind of fit into the boxes that society creates for us. But challenge yourself, be brave, step out of your comfort zone, because no one ever feels, or very rarely, I think, feels negatively upon pushing themselves to do something new or challenging themselves. Even if something goes wrong and you fail, even if it's not the success that you want it to be, even if it brings you, some stress, you grow from that. Pushing yourself out of your comfort zone is where you start to grow. If you live life in your comfort zone, you will choose to be the same person every day. You won't wake up and chase those dreams.
Yeah, I think that's great advice. Thank you so much for jumping on with me today. I really appreciate it. And please keep posting all your great content. It's so good to see.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I literally was so excited when you reached out. So I'm looking forward to getting to share this with everybody.
Oh, that's so nice.